In one sentence, how would you define what you think Classic Plus should be?
Just one sentence is kind of hard, but vanilla WoW with some slight quality of life changes, but finished. That's the shortest way I could describe it, essentially.
Finished product from Blizzard. That is very ambitious. I don't think I've seen one of those before.
That's a tough one.
Hammer, what would be your sentence?
Vanilla WoW. Again, like, yeah, what Ebenhard said, with some quality of life changes and more content, right? The game was successful and everyone loved it for so many years. Just expand on it. And actually, here's my one sentence, one word. Old school RuneScape.
That's 3 words.
That's too many words, but
It's one game. How about that? One game title. Old school RuneScape. Just follow that model, man. It would work. Yeah.
No, they have a great community over there for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I don't know. Would you guys think the voting system would work though in WoW?
Absolutely. So long as it's max level, you have to have logged in recently, like say a week timer or something.
And it just hits your mailbox. You open up your mail, you fill out a little poll, and that's it. I think it'd be cool, you know what I mean, to actually be able to impact, and make changes as a player, like actively. Like we can do that by making videos and yelling and complaining or praising, right? But like think about the majority of the player base. Really, nobody has a voice outside of crying on Reddit or crying in the comments of one of our videos. So to give players an actual voice to be able to help build Classic Plus or this game that everyone, essentially loves, I think that'd be sick.
I will have to do campaigns. We start doing like election campaigns and get people to vote for the thing we want. I'll be like the warrior candidate. Okay, Telo, what would be your sentence to define Classic Plus?
I mean, honestly, the other boys said it right too. Besides just like, being what vanilla was and, the fun we had when, especially when we were kids, before all this Wowhead stuff came about and, you were just logging on to an MMO playing the game. I think the one sentence I would have to say is not being afraid of taking risk and just having fun. And I know it's very simple, but sometimes that's all it is. That's all you need to be. I think Classic Plus needs to be risky taking, I guess is the word I'm trying to say. Like, take the risk. Let's be transparent with one another. And, don't be afraid if, like, the decision is a bad choice, because as a community, if we can discuss, like we keep doing with these devs, like, how we all have, talked with, Agrin and, Zyrene and all of them. I just think that's the ultimate thing, is Classic Plus needs to take the risk. And, I think that's what we all want and get involved in there.
Well said.
All right, I've got one word. Just one word. Horizontal progression. Okay.
One word.
2 words.
Yeah, one word. Okay, so the idea is more options. Basically, as WoW has evolved, there's only a few different options. It's like pillars of gameplay. We have the arenas or we have raids. It's like, let's get back. Classics is the one game that doesn't have that, where it's like you could go fish for 6 hours if you want, do whatever you want. So let's get back to more options, and that could be player housing. That could be anything. Just more options. Do whatever you want. Maybe you're decorating your house for 6 hours, but more options, instead of just being like you're either raiding or you're PvPing or you're logging out. Like which is the rest of WoW, in my opinion.
Dude, farming in WoW. I've always wanted farming in WoW.
RuneScape
like to have a
farming,
little
but in WoW,
house. Yeah, I want like a little house, plant some seeds, like Farmville, but in Warcraft.
In Pandaria they did that. It was very popular. And then the garrisons removed the appetite from the player base to do it again. But like the Pandaria farm patch, it was really cool. I liked it.
Yeah, it would be a cool little like mini game,
So you're saying garrisons, but in Classic WoW.
Oh yeah. Like no gathering.
Oh no.
Super inflation. And we should get all the cut content in WoD and cut it again.
I was going with Jerome said about the horizontal progression. He's absolutely right in the sense that every version of WoW after Classic, there is no horizontal progression. It's all vertical. Whereas Classic, I feel like the only version of WoW that stayed horizontal from beginning to end. Like, you can grind and do stuff, but at a certain point, there is not much else you can do to get better than everybody else. So you have to find your own way to have fun and enjoy the game. For example, fishing for 6 hours. I think that's a terrible thing. I hate fishing. It's boring. But that should be allowed and should be in the game for people to have that alternative way of playing. So horizontal progression is actually probably the best thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think to add on that too, like what Jerome was saying, it's like I don't think Classic Plus also should just be raid logging. Like that, I think is a horrible way for an MMO to be an MMO. And multiplayer online, massive multiplayer online game is supposed to be engaging. You're supposed to meet new friends, grow guilds, have communities, do events. Like talk about your professions one another. Do you need help? What are you lacking in this? Can I assist you with that? And I think if Classic Plus, focuses on that key thing, there's a very special spot Classic Plus can have in a lot of people's hearts, especially OG vanilla players that haven't played the game in such a long time or haven't even played COD, and it's a big opportunity that they have in front of us here.
That's what killed Cataclysm from me, honestly. Like the raid logging, like I'm not gonna raid log on 2 games.
Yeah, I don't think raid logging is the answer.
Yeah, Kata's really fun. The raids are great, but that's pretty much all I'm doing. So it's like I want something else to do as well.
Absolutely.
You want to stay in WoW.
It's your second life, like that crappy browser game. It's a second life. That's what it's supposed to be.
I remember people playing that game, and they were like, their whole life was Second Life. They'd like be managing a restaurant for like 16 hours a day. No joke.
Like the kids in How Hotel, but worse.
Yeah.
Like that RPG should be part of the world. It shouldn't just be online. It should have that role playing. Like I said, the fishing, the random shit, even that farming. Like every little thing that adds that role play to the game should add it, because raid logging sucks. Like we all do it. Everyone here is raid logged Cataclysm or even in SOD right now to a degree. So
yeah,
we do definitely need more horizontal progression, I guess, at the end of the day.
I agree 100%.
Yep. That would be a good follow-up question, actually. How would you achieve that from your point of view? I guess we're going to start with Jerome first, because I see him a little giddy. Might as well take advantage of the fact.
Well, I thought we were going in this like circle. I really liked being last. It made it a lot easier to answer. But yeah, so things like player housing, just try a bunch of stuff and see if it works. SOD was kind of doing that, but I kind of feel like they still think the end game is what matters. Feels like that's where like they're going to be making new raids and new dungeons. That's kind of still where they think the resources should go. But I don't know, new questing. Like I thought with SOD we would get like all new quests, just like completely rework everything. And maybe that wouldn't move the needle on like people coming back to the game, but just give us new stuff, new ideas, like flesh out some of the leveling, like 40 to 50. There's not enough quests. Give us more stuff to do, more options.
That would be a great start. Telo, what would you add?
I mean, honestly, I think one of the key things that I've noticed that people have an issue with before you add something is that they think that SOD or eventually Classic Plus, people are trying to make retail out of the old school game. And like, the minute you start having the conversation, it's like, oh, well, you want to add this, you want to add that. It's kind of sounding a lot like retail, like you want to make retail out of SOD, or you want to make a retail out of Classic Plus, or what like a lot of cool kids on the block nowadays call SOD Classic Minus, which I know that's been a funny thing. But I feel like honestly, I think the key is to, like Jerome was saying, adding more quests is a really, good thing, whether you're doing more farming things, more fishing events. I think events for like, maybe this hour, there's a big fishing event. This hour is happening right now. If you go here, you have a chance of catching really rare fish. Or if there's a hunting event, this hour, you have a really rare time. Any skin that you do might be duplicated the amount, quadruple the amount. Or even for PvPers, Ally v Horde event. Out of nowhere, an event happens. And like, for an hour or change in certain areas, you can get bonus honor like you would get in the BRM event that we're currently at right now. Certain ideas like that. There's tons of many other ideas that they can add, but I just really hope that they continue listening to the feedback and realize, like Jerome was saying as well, that the end game is not all about just the end game. It's about staying online in the game, because honestly, I know, like you guys, I love looking at my character in the mirror and be like, damn, I look good right now, like this looks awesome. But then it sucks, I have to log off and it'd be like, well, I'll see you guys next Friday, and it's like, that's the bummer part,
I love your idea. I don't know if you got like something like this in America, but there's like this French supermarket chain that we got here that basically you're in the middle of the supermarket, and from the speaker, like randomly one guy goes, "Attention Carrefour shoppers, now milk is on sale 20% for the next hour." They do that all the time.
No,
like
but
sale,
yeah, like a fire sale. But like, it would be cool if like, how we get like the Oni head event, or like when the world buff goes off and it says Oni money's dropping in 15 seconds. But then it would be like, oh, events going off and this location only, and it would force players to go out in the open world more because they want to level up their professions or do other stuff. I just think more stuff besides focusing on the end game is the key here to make Classic Plus fun in multitude of areas where people don't want to only excel in PvP, don't want to excel just in PvE raids, but they want to do activities in Azeroth. I think that's a big thing.
I agree 100%. So, Hammer, how would you add horizontal progression into the game?
Yeah, obviously what Jerome and Tello said, like player housing, like I said before, farming would be like a cool thing, but like maybe they could also take a look at professions as a whole, right? And kind of rework how professions work in WoW. And kind of take a mixture of like how Final Fantasy does it and RuneScape, right? Like Final Fantasy with your class, right? You can basically be every class. It's called a job or whatever. I don't really play, but I understand how the system works. And then in RuneScape, you have all your skills. So what if they took like those two things and mashed them together in WoW, right? And reworked how like the professions work, like, and you can level your character this way. You can do so many different things. For the people who really want to like be immersed and like do those things, you can be like a gatherer, right? And then like you click it, it's a little drop down. It shows you like your mining level, your herbalism level, your wood cutting level, whatever it is. I think that there's a lot that can be done with professions because in my opinion, in WoW, especially classic WoW, professions are very boring, right? Like it's just a chore.
100%.
I mean, some people enjoy it. But I think there's a lot that can be done with that, like completely rework it so that it's not even remotely the same system, but it's more fun. It has, some things from the previous system. Obviously, you'd keep some iconic things in there, but just make it something that people can do, right? Like, what if someone wants to play the game that entire way? They want to be just like a skiller, and they want to just like make a character that's just a straight up gatherer, like a fishing person, like hunting, whatever. You could add so much stuff. And people love like chasing that, right? Chasing levels, chasing XP. And it doesn't always have to be like combat. It doesn't always have to be combat XP, which would also help keep it away from like, I think Tello was saying it before, like keeping the entire game focused around like end game and like your character's power, right? It would almost give you a second way to play the game. You could play it both ways on one character, or maybe you just want to make a character that's like a skiller. Like you just want to go around the world traveling and skilling like that. Like I think that'd be cool too.
I think one thing that I just always thought in my life playing WoW that professions were that way. I just lived to the best of my ability and I never thought about it. I thought that was the best they were going to get. And then I just played Albion Online and I realized how outdated and awful professions in WoW are. Like Albion Online is like you're saying, you got like a whole trio talents for every profession. You want to gather, there's like cotton gathering spec, there is, hemp gathering spec, there's a whole thing. You got to make your own crafting stations. There are like so many systems caked on top of professions. There's people that do not fight in Albion ever. There's people that just play
that's what I'm saying,
professions all day.
And that's popular in MMOs. Like there's a lot of people that's how they play MMOs, right? They like doing professions and stuff like that. And that opens up an entirely new thing where like there can be like profession gear, right? Like level 1 axe, level 2 axe, level 3 pickaxe, whatever. That alone would add so much more content and add like a nice relaxing bit of gameplay, especially for like streamers who just want to like hang out and run around chopping trees down and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I've always thought about that in WoW, and I thought it would be awesome if they did something like that.
100%. It feels like a society, Like, why do we all have to be warriors? What if somebody doesn't want to be a warrior? Like, it makes the world feel a lot more real.
Going off what Hammer said, Jerome, Itello, like, they've made a lot of really good points. So I don't want to just, like, repeat what they said for certain elements here. I do agree that to make horizontal progression work, there needs to be things that complement the end game, so you have a reason to keep logging after the raids. So for example, fishing. There's like they said, an open world event for fishing, or for herbalism, or if you go to this zone right now, Tower and Mill vs. South Shore is happening, and then later that day, for example, the Silithus event is happening, where you can have these organic dynamic events, but like that is just like copying off what they said. For me personally, for horizontal progression, something that I personally think makes an end game good, that makes people keep logging on is, for example, when you're done with Molten Core right now, you can still go into UBRS and still go into, for example, Stratom, Scholar Masters, things you need to farm, things you need to gather, Dark Runes, whatnot. Now, not as much in SOD, but in OG Classic you did. For certain classes, for mages, Boomkin, Shadow Priest, you needed all those things. So to keep that end game and the horizontal progression going, every time they add a new dungeon, they have to give you a reason to still do old content. So for example, a new boss, a new resource, things you need to go and gather and do in the open world, or just add a new world boss to a new location. They have to keep the world alive with that end game activity, that end game cycle at least. But that's just one side of it. And like they said, there's that whole other non-rating, non-end game side of it where give you a reason to level on alt, give you a reason to log on and do things. So there really isn't much data before you start deviating from what makes classic though. So that's where I'm gonna stop my answer because I just gonna end up repeating what they end up saying just earlier.
Yeah.
I want to note that I went into Lord of the Rings Online, and the population's not super high, but within like an hour, I was at a party and there was like a whole band playing, and it was all real people. And it's just like that's the same thing with Final Fantasy. Like you see, like whenever Asmongold plays, it's like the community aspect. Like just give us more things we can play around with, and I bet the whole community would be around that. So, like events are a great example, but there's a lot of potential. Other games are doing it better right now in terms of the community stuff.
Yeah, you
No,
know,
yeah,
like,
100%.
sorry, Telo, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think the only thing I've ever done is when I leveled up on the Horde, and everybody in Duratar was just we were all on a reindeer train as a community and just roaming around trying to figure out what to do with our lives. But that was the most fun I think I've had in a long time because it was just like 40, 50 people on the same reindeer just roaming around. But
The
things like
conga
that is
line,
like,
I
you
saw
know,
that.
but that's stuff I remember, you know what I mean? That cracks a smile for me because it's like those are the fun parts about MMOs, not only just the end game aspect, which I also, you know, hold dearly to my heart as well.
You know, one thing that I wish they would implement in Classic Plus is I saw this in a really old MMO, like Star Wars had an old MMO before, like the Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Galaxies. There was like a profession where you would sharpen people's weapons, like the sharpening stone we got in WoW, but you had to like physically go to a pub, a bar or whatever, an inn it was called, I don't even know, and like they would do it for you. There was like poets that would sing a song and buff you, but you had to be inside the inn to get it. Like, I would love to see like some sort of like encouraging people to gather in a place to get something. And of course that will devolve into the conga line of reindeers and snakes from Sunken Temple.
No, honestly, to follow up on that point, I played a lot of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic actually a couple months back, just with a couple buds of mine, just for playing it because I missed the game, you know, on the low when I wasn't doing WoW stuff. And yeah, you can send your companions to go get profession materials for certain things, and they come back to you with those materials within the hour, or sometimes within 30 minutes. And I think that would be a good, you know, ideas maybe, you know, if you have like a farm like Cameron and Evan and, you know, we were all talking about and Jerome, and like, you know, or if you have like, you know, some type of zone that's like your zone and you send people out gathering materials for you and they come back an hour and say, hey, this is what I brought you. You know what I mean? Like something like that. That's kind of cool too. You know, I think it's neat.